Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Leela with a series of lectures on signals and systems and Python. Today is the second lecture on Python and I am going to explain some basics about Python interpreter, then basics about one of the library of Python, that is NumPy library, and one more package which is a data visualization package which is matplotlib. So with this, let me open the Jupyter notebook. So first I'm going to explain Python interpreter. I'm going to use 3.8.3 version of the Python. So as I explained in the previous lecture, these are all cells in which we write the codes, and to run the code we make use of this button or shift and enter pressed together. So now in the first cell I have written 3 plus 3, and if I run this, so now before running this cell, the input line number, it is blank here. If I run this cell, I'll get the answer at the output line. So since I have been using this notebook for a long time, the line number is 142. Let me restart the kernel and run it once again so that the line number starts from 1. Okay, so this is, I have written 3 plus 3 in first cell. So when I execute it, when I run this cell with the code 3 plus 3, I am getting answer. This is the output line for line 1. The answer displayed is 6. So I can perform some basic mathematical operations directly writing the operation in this cell. So now I will divide 3 by 4 and run it using the keys shift and enter. So 3 by 4 is 0.75. So now I will make a list of two lists with some numbers. A is one list with numbers 1, 2, 3, and B is another list with mixed type of data, that is integer numbers 2 and 4, and there is a floating point number also 3.2. So now if I ask it to type or print A, and also I can even achieve that by simply writing A and executing this. So I'll run this file. So first output is print A, that is 1, 2, 3, and the second one is I have typed not print statement, simply B. B, whatever is in B has been written here at the output line. So this is the output line for input line 3. So next I'm giving one more mathematical operation which involves both integer data and floating point data. So when data is of both integer and floating point type, the result will always be in the floating point format. It will convert all the integers also to floating point formats and do the uh, output. So now I'll run this cell. So this answer is 6. It is an integer, but still since it converts all the data to floating point, it is outputting the data in the floating point format 6.0. So next is 17 by 3. 17 by 3 is going to be a fraction like this, 5.66666. So now this is a floating point number with a fraction. Suppose I don't want this to be a fraction. I want it to be an integer with the fraction part truncated. Then I make use of double slash like this. And now if I run this cell, so this fraction part is eliminated, that is truncated, and I am getting only the integer part of it. Now suppose I want to know what is the remainder of a certain division. So 17 divided by 3. When I divide 17 by 3, what is the remainder? I make use of this percentage sign. 17 by 3. the answer is 2. This 2 is the remainder of this division process. So similarly, I can perform the multiplication 3 into 4, and I can square. Square I can perform it by making use of double star like this. 3 square, that is 9. So next is assigning the values to a variable. So I am taking a variable a and assigning a value 5 to the variable a. So let me run this cell. So a value is 5, and same thing I can achieve it by printing it by making use of a print statement also. Suppose I want to print in addition to 5, behind that 5 I want to make use of the a also. A is equal to 5. Then I must give that a is equal to as a string within the print statement like this, print within parenthesis, and whatever is in within the quote, it will take it as a string and types it as it is in the output line. Then the remaining part, that is a, it takes it as a variable. Whatever the value that is available in the variable name a, that it types after this a is equal to. So let me execute this. Now you see that a is equal to is a string which is defined within the quote like this, so that it has typed as it is. And in the variable name a, I have 5. That 5 has been brought here since I have asked it to type the value that is available in a. So next, let me take two variables p is equal to 2, q is equal to r, and perform p divided by q. Now I need not give what is the result. The result will be available in the output line. So p by q, 2 by 6 is 0.333. Let me perform another division where I have not defined the variable. So let me see what happens. Say p divided by n. I have not defined n anywhere previous to this line. And if I do that, it will give an error. So you observe here, when I run this, it will take some time, and during that time the line number will be in a star. I will change this to some m. So before it completes the execution, it will be a star will be asterisk will be appearing in this, and afterwards only it is converted into the line number. Now you see here that m is not defined because I have not given any variable name before this line and given any value to that m. That's why it's giving m is not defined. So now I will make that m is equal to 4. Now if I perform p by m, I will get the answer. That is p is 2 divided by 4 is 0.5. So let me take two lists. Previously we have defined similar to that, we take two lists. A is equal to 1, 2, 3, B is equal to 4, 5, 6. Let me create a third list C, which is A multiplied by 5. That means I want each element of this A to be multiplied by 5. Let me see what happens. So I have not asked it to print C. So if I ask it to print C, what has happened? A, which is a list of numbers 1, 2, 3, has been a new list C has been created by repeating this 1, 2, 3 5 times. So C is another list with dimension 1 row and columns, which is 5 times the columns in A, and the values are repeated which are in A are repeated 5 times. So but what we intend to do is we wanted it to multiply each element wise. Multiplication is not possible. Let me try another operation. Let me add the two arrays here. I want to add element wise the arrays of A and B elements, that is 4 plus 1, 2 plus 5 and 6, 3 plus 6. So if I run this, the new array D, A plus B, what it has done is it has concatenated the two arrays 1, 2, 3, and along with that the second array is also added and the new array is formed making use of the data in A and B. So this is where we fail to compute element wise computations in using only Python interpreter. This is where the use of NumPy library comes into picture. Now let us take the NumPy library. See here I have used, to give this heading, I have typed NumPy and run it as an heading. So it will ask whether it is a second level of heading. I say OK and then shift enter. So run this. Then this becomes a heading. So NumPy library. So in order to use the functions available in the NumPy library, first I have to import the functions into the Jupyter Notebook. That is done by using this code. From NumPy import star. Star means all the functions you import it to this notebook. So from NumPy import. Otherwise, particularly if you want to import only sine or cos, any trigonometric functions or array like that, you can do it by explicitly specifying it. But anyway, to avoid every time changing, every time adding whatever we want the function to this list, instead, let us import all the functions available in NumPy library by making use of this star. So from NumPy import star all the functions. So if you don't run this cell, you won't be able to use the NumPy library. So you have to run this cell. So you can observe here this asterisk while it is being running. So only after completing that the line number will come. Line number will be in the consecutive order. So previous line number was 20 input line, now it is 21. So this doesn't create any output, but if there is any error in this, suppose instead of typing n, suppose by mistake I have done this, then that will give you an error indicating that something is wrong while importing. So we have to make the corrections. So I'll change it back to NumPy. Okay. So now let me define an array by name A, which is equal to array. Arrays are defined within the parenthesis and the array elements are placed within the square bracket like this. So now A is an array containing elements 1, 2, 3 and it is a one-dimensional array having one row and 3 elements corresponding to 3 columns. So it has only rows. So I'll ask it to print A. So it will print A. If this can also be achieved by simply typing A. So it will indicate what this A is. A is an array having elements 1, 2, 3. Let me also define one more array B given by elements 4, 5, 6 enclosed within square bracket and the whole thing within the parenthesis. And I'll perform the addition of A and B. Now, if I don't have this NumPy library, this will concatenate the two arrays. But now, since I am using the NumPy library, this has to add the elements of the array A and B element-wise operation. That is 4 plus 1, 2 plus 5 and 3 plus 6. Let me run this cell. So now you see here, this J has been typed here. I'll ask it to type C. C is an array consisting of sum of the elements which are the sum of the two arrays A and B, 5, 7, 9. Okay. Now I'll define another array J, which is a concatenation of two arrays A and B. And I'll ask it to type this new array J. Something is wrong. So I'm enclosing this two arrays within one more set of square brackets and the whole thing under the parenthesis. This will take them as two rows. We shall see more about this in future. Next, I'll make a new array D is equal to A into 4. So here A is an array 1, 2, 3 consisting of 1, 2, 3. Each element will be multiplied by 4. So now I have the array D which is 4, 8 and 12. So each element multiplied by 4. So similarly, I can perform even the division. So new array E is, which is A by 2, that is 1 by 2, 2 by 2 and 3 by 2. So now let me define an array I as equal to 0, pi by 2, pi and 3 pi by 2. So that is 4 angles, let us say. And I'll define another function f, which is sine of these angles, sine of I. And one more function g, which is cos of I. Now first let me execute this sine of I and print this f. When I run this cell, I get f, which is sine of the cell. Sine 0 is 0, sine pi by 2 is 1, sine pi is again 0, that is 10 to the power of minus 6. This e minus 16 represents 10 to the power of minus 16, which is a very small number which can be treated as 0. And then 3 pi by 2, sine 3 pi by 2 is minus 1. Now similarly, I can calculate cos, ask it to print g. So cos of 0 is 1, cos pi by 2 is 0, so 10 to the power of minus 17. And cos pi is minus 1 and cos 3 pi by 2 is again a small value 0. Okay, so that is how we calculate the trigonometric values of whatever it is. So in Python interpreter, let me check whether I can calculate trigonometric functions. Let me add a cell here above this and find out some p is equal to sine of 0 and type p. So this is also taking trigonometric functions. It was not available previously. Anyway, and then it is not just array through which we can organize the data in an order. We can have some more types of arrays in NumPy library. So one more is linspace, that is linear space, which will take the starting point and ending point. And one more thing is how many parts it has to be divided into. So this space from 0 to 60 has to be divided into, that is defined here. So if I don't define it, it will take it as 50 parts. Now first let me run this without defining it. So now I have given linear space from 0 to 16 without defining how many parts. It has to give me 50 parts. See, from 0 to 60, it has divided all throughout into equal parts of 50. So each part is of 0.32653061. So go on multiplying this up to 50. Suppose I don't want this 50 and explicitly I'll define 5 parts, then you will get 5 parts, 0, 4, 8, 12 and 16. Okay, this is linearly dividing the range of space, starting point and ending point. In another form of array, we can arrange the numbers from some starting point to ending point in steps. This last digit here represents steps, whereas in linspace it represents the number of parts. Now if I don't define the steps, it will take it as in steps of 1. So I'll run this. So x is divided into in steps of 1, and you should note here when we it is not arrange, it is arrange. So when we arrange this sequence numbers from 0 to 16, always this last one is not present, last but 1. It stops at a number which is last but 1. Now 16 is the last number. It will stop at 50. So in steps of 1, it has organized this array starting from 0 to last but 1, that 50. So instead of steps 1, which is the default setting, I will make it 2. So that in steps of 2, from 0 to 15, that is 16 minus 1, it will organize into an array. So from 0 to 4, 12 and then 14. Next one is 16, but 16 one is the stopping point here, which will take it one less than that, so it is stopping at 14. Okay. So similarly, we can also make an array with the log space. So that is, here the first starting point and ending point represent 10 raised to that power, 10 to the power of 1 to 10 to the power of 6 in 5 spaces or 5 parts. So if I don't specify that, it will be 50 parts. Otherwise, if I specify that, suppose if I specify it as 2, so first one will be 10 to the power of 1, second one will be 10 to the power of 6. If I specify it as 3, it will be 3, first one 10 to the power of 1, last one 10 to the power of 6, and in between the middle one 10 to the power of 3. So like this, we can organize an array in the logarithmic fashion also by making use of log space. And we can take the log of a number or numbers in an array. So I'll specify an array as 249 consisting of numbers 249. This is an array which is enclosed within the square bracket and the parenthesis like this. Suppose even if I miss the parenthesis, I'll get an error message. No, it takes it as an array only, no problem. Then it is calculating log of a. So if I don't specify it as 10, this log will be taken as natural log. Let me run this. This is natural log of 2, 4 and 9. These are the answers for natural log of 2, 4 and 9. And if I want it for a base of 10, specify it is for whatever base you want to calculate. To that base it will calculate. So that is about NumPy library function, some basics which we require to understand the simulations concerned to signals and system. Next, visualization. Visualization, I am using matplotlib package to visualize the various plots in signals and systems. So for that, first I must import matplotlib pyplots. So import matplotlib.pyplot, and instead of every time typing this, I'll make it as a usually this is the short form used by the developers or the programmers. PLT is the short form for matplotlib.pyplot. And then next two I'll explain later. So with this first one imported, run this cell. So you can observe this star here, then the next one. Next, I'll consider an array of T. This T is, I'm arranging minus 4 pi. Let me, instead of minus, I'll make it as 0. 0 to 4 pi in steps of 0, 0, 1. Organize this. So I'll type T. So you have the T given by this. And next I'll calculate. So let me take a function x which is equal to sine of this T. Sine of T, and then plot this T versus x. PLT dot plot. X axis is T and then y axis is the function x. So now I am getting the sinusoidal waveform for 2 cycles, and since I have imported this matplotlib notebook, this percentage matplotlib notebook will give the plot in an interactive manner. So before that, without interaction, that is simply if I take matplotlib and change this, run this once again. Or matplotlib inline. Okay, so now I have the graph in line with the codes. So this is a sinusoidal plot for 2 cycles where I have taken x-axis ranging from 0 to 2 pi, 0 to 2 pi, and y-axis is the sign of that time. So I can make it grid appear for this graph, plt dot grid, then parenthesis. This will make the grid appear in the plot like this. So let me also calculate one more function y, which is equal to cos of t, and also plot this function plt dot plot y, plot t comma y, t comma y. So now I have two graphs, two plots to be plotted. So run this. So now you will observe that first one is the blue one, which is sinusoidal. The second one is the cosine signal, which has come on the same graph, and you can observe the phase shift between the two. Okay, so now I can make it interactive by making this, instead of inline, make it a notebook and run this. So this becomes an interactive plot. That means here you can see that it is an interactive plot, and you can stop it by pressing this. So what is this interaction? So you can move this plot on this graph sheet by taking this like this and observe the various parts of it, and also we can expand any part of it, and see more details about it. And also you see here on the bottom right corner, we can see the let me go back to the previous view. You can see that as I move the cursor on the graph, we can see the x and y coordinates of that point at which the cursor is placed. Okay, so we can observe the waveform and go back to home, and also we can download the plot as an image here. So these are the interactive features of this matplotlib notebook with a percentage sign. Okay, suppose I don't want these two graphs to be on the same axis of reference. Instead, I want to plot it as two separate graphs with independent axis of reference. Then I can make use of subplot. So plt dot subplot. So let me organize into two rows and one column. That is 2 comma 1 comma 1. The first plot is subplot 2 comma 1 comma 1. That is the sine signal. Then the cos signal, I'll write it as 2 comma 1 comma 2. And the grid has to be provided for both separately because they are now separate graphs. So now if I run this, now you see here I have two functions, signals, x is equal to sine of t, y is equal to cos of t, and I try to organize it in a single row and two columns. So in the first column element, I plot the sine function, and in the second column place, I'll plot the cos function. So when you run this, you'll find that this is the first plot, second plot. So we can give the labels to these plots. I'll make the label here, plt dot, I'll give the title within quote sine of t, and for this I'll give the title plt dot title cos of t, and for both x label plt dot X label time plt dot X label time. So with this, if I run, you will find that X label for both time, and each one is having its own axis of reference, time and the Y axis. And the title for the first one is sin t. This is the position of 1, 2, 1, and this is the position of the subplot 1, 2, 2, which is cos of t. So if I want to organize it in a column fashion, just interchange this 1 and 2 here. 2 columns, 1 row, 2 columns, 1 row, and run this. So you will see that the first, that is 2, 1, 1 is the first one. 2, 1, 2 is the second one. It is 2 rows and 1 column. They are organized in a one single column. So now this is how we plot the subplots. Suppose instead of from 0 to 4 pi, I'll make it as minus 4 pi to plus 4 pi. So that I'll have the negative part of the plot also for negative t. So now you will see that this is the y axis 0 and x axis is here. X axis actually it should be here, the tick marks are here. So we can change this. So let me take only one plot and explain the changes. So let me take only sin of t, take it to another cell, and plt dot plot t comma x. That is because the interaction, this was not switched off here. Let me run this now. Now this has come here. Now let me also take the grid plt dot grid, and I think I'll take it to the next slide. So now with the grid. Now this plot will look good if I shift the axis to the center of this, so that this negative and positive time axis are bifurcated, and also the positive and negative magnitudes are also bifurcated. This is done by making use of the function plt.gca. So this, let me copy this. So this GCA, plt.gca, get access to get control over the axis is GCA dot spines. Left spine I want it to be in red, and I want it to be positioned at the center. So now if I run this, you will observe the change. Whatever the left, the axis which was y axis which was marked at the leftmost end is now shifted to the center with the marking, and also I have changed the color of this line so that we can easily make out the y axis. Same thing we shall do it with the bottom, that is the x axis. I'll copy this and make the changes here. So instead of left, make it as a bottom and set its color to red, and also bring the bottom spine to the center. Okay, so now you see, now you can easily make out the negative and positive time axis, and also the magnitude, positive and negative magnitude. But these two lines looking odd. So what I do is I make the spines of the right and top as none, so that they will not appear. Okay, so the right, set color to none, and also the top one, not position, it is the color to none. Oh, if I run this, you can make out here now. This graph looks better than the previous one because I can make out where the origin of the axis is corresponding to time t0 and also the magnitude 0, and I can make out the positive and negative values for the x and y axis clearly. With that, I'll conclude today's lecture, and with this much of basic about the Python and NumPy and Matplotlib, I'll start the simulation of the signals from the next class. And if you like this video, give a thumbs up, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. See you in my next lecture.